Tiffany was, and perhaps even today, is an inspiring brand in the jewelry category. The whole American market and that blue box, and the movies in Hollywood,
Movies, yeah.
it all made Tiffany something else, right? And therefore, Mr. Desai's reference was that. So, can I create a brand of that standard?
The story behind how Tanishq got its name.
Ex-colleague of mine called Meera, and one of the names she had sort of circled for Mr. Desai to look at was Nishka. He just made it Nishq. And then, in a flash of inspiration, added TA in the front.
Welcome to Sapna Rise, a platform where we bring you closer to the stories, insights, and wisdom of some of the most distinguished authors and thought leaders. At Sapna Rise, our mission is simple yet profound: to inspire a nation through the power of storytelling and the written word. We believe that every story has the potential to ignite change, spark innovation, and build a better future. Unlike other podcast series, our focus is solely on the authors and their stories. Stories that not only entertain but also provide deep insights and life lessons. Through candid conversations, we explore the creative process, the inspirations, and the understanding embedded in the pages of their work. Whether you're a passionate reader, an aspiring writer, or simply someone who loves a good story, Sapna Rise is your gateway to the world of books and the remarkable people who write them. Sapna Rise is an initiative of Sapna Book House, India's largest book mall. In today's episode, we have the privilege of speaking with someone whose leadership has been instrumental in shaping one of India's most beloved brands. We're here to celebrate the launch of the Tanishq Story, a book that not only traces the evolution of a brand, but also embodies the essence of innovation, resilience, and visionary leadership. Tanishq, a name that resonates with millions across India and beyond, is more than just a jewelry brand. It's a light of trust, quality, and elegance. With over 350 stores spread across 200 cities, Tanishq has woven itself into the fabric of Indian society, serving a diverse and loyal customer base that spans decades. This remarkable journey, chronicled in the pages of this book, is a testament of what can be achieved when tradition meets innovation. At the helm of this extraordinary journey is C.K. Venkataraman, the managing director at Titan Company Ltd. Under his leadership, Tanishq has become a powerhouse, contributing around 80% of Titan Company's revenue, which soared past 30,000 crores in the last financial year. But the story of Tanishq is not just about numbers. It's about pioneering innovations like the carat meter, the impure to pure program, the 3,000 new designs annually, the extraordinary marketing strategies, and much more that ensured that Tanishq remains at the cutting edge of fashion and tradition. In the Tanishq story, Mr. Venkatraman shares the strategies, challenges, and the triumphs that have defined the brand's journey. This book has amazing insights not just for business leaders, but for anyone who believes in the power of perseverance, ethics, and customer centricity. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming C.K. Venkatraman, the Managing Director at Titan Company Limited, as we dive into the fascinating world of this Tanishq story of innovation, resilience, and the unwavering commitment to excellence. Welcome, sir. It's an honor. To start off with, what made you write the Tanishq story book?
I was not at all thinking of writing a book on Tanishq, certainly, and I was, used to writing essays of interesting stuff over the years, and I had shared that with Chiki Sarkar, who's the publisher at Juggernaut, who I had got to know a few years back, and she seemed to think that I had a certain writing style which would have some audience, and it was warm, that whole thing. And then One day she told me, why don't you become well known as an author first before you write the book that you want to write, which was about living the corporate life without too much of stress. I mean, something of that kind. I wanted to write from my own experiences. I wanted to do some research as well. Then I asked her, but how do I become well known without writing my book? She said, you write a well known story. I said, what story? She said, the Tanishq story. And then suddenly it made sense. Yeah, I mean, it's my story also. I've been there a good part of that, and it made sense, and I ended up doing it.
Oh, that's lovely to know. And I've got the privilege to read your story. And though it has lovely insights, which has real examples of how the company, even though it had an initial starting problem, if I can say so, but it triumphed through all the challenges and made it the way it is today. But at the start of the book, the very first chapter, you have a wonderful comparison that you've written between Kohinoor and Tanishq. Even though it's imaginary, if you could share that, what made you write this story and what resonance does it take for you to, for the Tanishq story? Why is it that you have written this kind of a story at the start of the book?
Actually, this entire thing I actually wrote, I think, in 2013 or something, that particular connection, that part, imaginary story. It was done for we have a biannual conference for all our partners and for our sales and marketing and the whole team at Tanishq. We do it outside India every 2 years. And I think it was in 2013, maybe Kuala Lumpur or somewhere. And I have a presentation to make in that conference as part of the whole thing. And I had imagined this at that time. I don't recollect what led to that imagination, but it just came to me one day. This story of and we have had this history of Kohinoor being taken away from us, and it actually belongs to us, and we need it back. That's been going on for a while, right? So somewhere that, and the fact that the diamond itself did not want to leave the motherland was sitting. So I presented it like that. And it made a lot of sense for the whole Tanishq crowd to be compared with the
The
soul of
Kohinoor,
Kohinoor and
right?
all that. And they all rah-rahed it, saying, yeah, yeah, good show, guys, like that. And it was there. It was just a 15-minute presentation way back in 2013, and it was left in my memory, so to speak. And then when I was writing that book, it came back to me, and I said, why not? It's an interesting way to start it. And then we spoke to Chiki and her colleagues at Juggernaut, and initially it was not, hey, it's too filmy, man, something like that. And in the current version, I closed that chapter by saying that obviously it's not true, like that, right? Whereas in my original version, I had not done that. I just left it as if it is the soul of uh, Kohinoor, which resides in Tanishq, or which has become Tanishq. And that obviously is not true. And so by changing and adding that line, we concluded that it made a good start to the book.
No, I think it's a wonderful way to start the book because the benchmark of Tanishq right now is definitely the benchmark that probably India has for Kohinoor or Kohinoor has for India. So I think the analogy made was great, and it really gave that sparkling effect before we start the story of Tanishq. Let's set the stage now. Let's talk about the origins of the Titan Industries. So Titan Watches was established in 1984 as a joint venture between the Tata Group and Tidco, right? So, before we start really talking about Tanishq, can you share the vision behind Titan and the key figures involved in its creation? Who were the people who actually created Titan, which later on the same founders created Tanishq? So, a little bit on the background of Titan before we delve into Tanishq.
So, like you said, it was a joint venture between TIDCO, which is the Industrial Development Corporation of Tamil Nadu, and the Tatas. The watch business was the first business, launched in 1987. Very good immediate success because of many things we did. And we were growing at a very good clip in the early 90s. And some of the components which were used in the watches were imported, and therefore the import bill was climbing. And we needed foreign exchange, and India was not in the kind of position it is in today in terms of the reserves, and therefore companies were encouraged to export. And we couldn't export watches in that day because the world was full of watch brands. And there was an idea that the managing director at that time, Mr. Desai, had to design, make, and export jewelry. And he got this idea from somewhere that he went to, and a jewelry plant was set up in Hosur, close to our watch plant, and we designed the jewelry, made it, and tried to sell it. But we're not done, enough research, customer side, what kind of products, which countries, what customers, what kind of products, and the world was full of, and India was also full of manufacturers of jewelry, and so we struggled, and the whole it was a big investment of some 65 crores or something like that at
at
that
that
time,
time.
a lot of money in 1993. And then they said, oh, we've got this investment. India is a large jewelry market. Can we use that investment to make a mark here? But unfortunately, somewhat like what was done for the international market, we did that without enough research work for in the Indian consumer markets. So Indians wanted very traditional jewelry, 22 carat gold jewelry in very traditional showrooms. We made very Western jewelry, all 18 carat with diamonds in very, very elite kind of showrooms. So on every count, it was not right for the market. It struggled for a few years till in 2000 a new team came and reimagined many things, and then there was no stopping Tanishq after that.
And also, a lot of some part of Titan, you said that the founder of Mr. Xerxes Desai, he was part of Tata Press, and then he got into Titan, right? So the journey was again when he pitched an idea to the Tata Sons board that he wants to do something in the watch business, or was it something that came from the board to him that hey, this is an interesting space, why don't you look to handle it? Because he was part of the press at the start
So he
of
was the
Titan,
managing director of Tata Press,
right?
and when he was there, he and another colleague of his and a senior executive of Titan later, Mr. Manchanda, the two of them dreamed up this opportunity of getting into watches and quartz watches as it became later. They pitched it to the Tata Sons board, and because of the rules prevalent at that time in the country, which permitted uh, governments and small and medium enterprises to get into the watch industry. So we needed a collaboration with the government, and there were some fortuitous meetings with some secretaries in the Tamil Nadu government and all that, which preceded this, and
Correct.
that's how TIDCO came on board, and the whole joint venture got formed.
So you spoke about the founder, Xerxes Desai. He was your mentor, uh, the leader that you looked up to. He was also the founder of Titan and Tanishq. So, in this one line, how do you like to define Mr. Desai's leadership, or something you like to share about his style of working?
I don't think I knew of him before I joined Titan. To my best recollection, Titan was starting to become well known, and it looked like a very good company, watches and beautiful watches and all that. And the success of Titan was reasonably well known. It was 3 years after Titan started, and it was a Tata company. So
Correct.
successful lifestyle Tata company, and that was my reason. I joined, and I met him a couple of days after I joined the company, and he was a very people's person and very open to youngsters. And I was quite junior in the company at that time, but because I was also in advertising, which was a very subject very close to his heart, I had access to him because of the nature of my responsibility. And he has had a huge impact on me. He gave me all the stuff I know today about design, product design, I knew nothing before I joined Titan. Today, I would consider myself somewhat of an expert on that subject. And he taught me and continues, in a sense, to teach me, even though he's not here today, because of the exceptional standards that he had for that. He taught me to be more of a humanitarian, than I was. He taught me to dream bigger than I could. Earlier, he sort of sharpened my sense of humor, and he ultimately led the way for me to sit in his chair, which I never imagined I ever would. But I ended up doing that 4 years back.
I think that defines the mark of a leader, where he makes sure that the people who he is working with become as brilliant as the leader is. So, the distribution of knowledge is one of the key successes of a successful leader, is what I would take away from Mr. Desai and the relationship that he had with you, and I'm sure with most of the employees there.
Yes, and also giving them total freedom to fulfill their own capabilities and pointing to a distant dream and saying that's what we want to go. These are the standards or these are the qualities which cannot be compromised. The rest of it you figure out. That kind of a freedom, and therefore each of us end up expressing ourselves in a particular way. Not all of us necessarily end up going to that end in the same through the same route. We may take go like this, somebody may go like that, but the standards, finally the standards of customer experience, product innovation, operating processes, those standards cannot be compromised. The ethics and integrity of our the way we do business cannot be compromised. But the route can be different. Somebody could go maybe high value, somebody could do premium, and so on, and somebody could do more distribution, somebody could do more retailing. That's just a method of reaching there in some sense.
So, sir, I would like to talk about a very instrumental aspect of Titan, the soundtrack of Titan. I mean, all of us who have bought watches from Titan have definitely heard to this piece of music, the Mozart Symphony Number 25. It did play a crucial role in shaping the brand and the identity. So, why was this particular symphony number chosen, and what was Mrs. Xerxes Desai's role in this strategy? It was a lovely soundtrack, and like to know more about this.
I was not there myself when that happened. It was before I joined Titan. But what has been recorded is I think they wanted to give a certain international personality to the brand. They wanted to have a mnemonic, an audio mnemonic, which would jump out and make people think of the brand even when they're not in front of the television. And with all this, there was a person called Suresh Malik, who is a creative director at Ogilvy, who was our
Okay.
advertising agency. So I think it grew out of a conversation between Mr. Desai and Suresh Malik and the 25th Symphony of Mozart. And finally, then it got expressed in multiple ways over the 3 plus decades, 4 decades now.
Is it still in use
Yeah, of course.
in the
Yeah,
Titan ads?
yeah. In
Wow.
the watch.
In the watch
Yeah,
ads, yeah.
yeah. And even in sometimes in the wherever Titan comes, like Titan I Plus is also a Titan brand.
Right.
So sometimes in Titan I Plus
I
also the
plus
track
also.
comes. Yeah.
I would like to understand the rapid success of Titan just after it was launched. In the early 1990s, when Titan was established, Titan went through a rapid growth. So, what made this growth story? Was it the mechanism that Titan used, or was it the strategy of the Indian consumer, or was it generally the demand of good quality watches? So there was HMT already in the market, and I'm sure there were others in the market too. So, what made the rapid strides of Titan initially just after it got launched?
For some reason, uh, the mechanical watches were the leading category in India when Titan came in. And it was so natural if Titan had also got into mechanical watches. But, one very critical evening when this was discussed, I think in 86 or something, Mr. Desai listened to everyone and decided next morning that we'll get into quartz. And that's how we got into quartz. And quartz is fewer parts, easier to make, more accurate and sleeker, and therefore slimmer, the movement, and therefore the watches could be sleeker. And of course, Mr. Desai's design sensibilities was sensational. So we created a product line which looked something else, and nothing like that was had been seen in the country. And we also filled a full page of newspaper with some 50 or 60 models. And the headline said, to buy watches like this, you don't have to go to Dubai or Singapore or London. Introducing Titan Quartz from Tata. That was that headline, the brand in between 50 watches. It just blew the mind of people, and people would come with the paper and say, show me this, show me this, show me this kind of thing. Just took off like that and never stopped after that. And then we introduced the Titan showroom in 1987 or 88, which was a altogether very different kind of. Today, showrooms are so common. But in 1987, a watch showroom which had windows, stories written about watches inside those windows, very beautiful lighting, and very, very air conditioned, a very polite, friendly, knowledgeable staff. It was unheard of, unknown. And then quickly, showrooms were rolled out across the country with partners, franchisee partners. So, between a sensational product line, looking product line, of course, the advertising, then we started promoting this as a deadly gift and an expression of love, affection to your wife, to your daughters, and so on and so forth. And deep distribution with showrooms, and of course, a quality. It was an extremely durable, reliable product. And the nation just lapped it up because of this combination.
Talking a little bit more about Mr. Desai, I mean, he's someone who you've really looked up to, and he's the one who envisioned Titan. He further also envisioned the jewelry business for the Tata Group. Specifically, sir, if you could discuss, how he s- he went about the jewelry business. How did he go about pitching the business to the Tata Sons, and what was the response of the board, and how did he stamp this idea in the hearts and minds of Tata? More about how he started the jewelry business.
See, the situation was that we had got into manufacturing of jewelry, invested 60 plus crores to export jewelry, and that was floundering. It was not working out. And the attention turned to India. Otherwise, that entire 65 crores was sort of, in a way, uh, not giving returns. And so, why don't we create a brand for India? Was the uh, natural thing. I am not, very sure myself what exactly happened much before I got into Tanishq. But the circumstances were clearly a reason because we had to recover a very large investment. But one of the directors at that time who I interviewed, and I mean, that's covered in the book as well, Mr. Ishat Hussain, who was,
Right, the
I
CFO, I
don't know
think.
at that time, but certainly later the group finance director of the group, but he was on the board of Titan Company. So he told me that, look, I almost fell off the chair when Xerxes suggested that we launch a brand in India because my idea of Indian jeweler was the owner sitting on a gaddi in the store, right?
Right.
And I couldn't figure out how it could be corporatized, was what he told me. But because of the situation, we ended up getting in, and of course, we did it in a particular way, which was not connecting with the market at that time, struggled for a few years, and then reimagined that. But the reason why we got in, the reason why the Tatas let us, in a sense, was because we were in a spot.
Interesting. So, one good thing about the Tatas, what I'm able to understand now, is they really listen to their team in terms of any feedback or in terms of any new innovation. So, I think Tata normally we call the company or the conglomerate as a conglomerate from pin to plane. So, I think these new innovations and developments has happened because of entrepreneurs within the company who wanted to start something new, and Tata really let them speak or give them that kind of freedom to imagine, to innovate.
Certainly.
So I think that's an
It's very
important
much,
takeaway.
yes, of course.
So once Mr. Desai put forward the proposal and you explained to us, how the board really gave its acceptance, but initially the business did face a lot of skepticism, particularly from some of the key Tata leaders like Mr. Anil Manchada. Can you share the initial conversations and challenges you faced in setting up Tanishq? I mean, what challenges did Mr. Desai face once the approval was given? What were the initial challenges, or maybe the market survey, maybe the initial plant for manufacturing, or the export house that you had? So, what were the initial challenges that you faced?
See, the jewelry plant that had been set up was to make what is called a cast jewelry,
Right,
where the gold is actually made through the frame. If I take a ring, for example, the ring is made through a casting process, or the pendant is made through a casting process, and diamonds would be studded onto that
right,
piece later, right? Now, most of so the form of the jewelry that came out was very Western, often minimal in its appeal. I mean, look, which was just not the kind of jewelry that Indians were buying in 1996. Indians were essentially buying handmade jewelry, what is called a filigree jewelry, which is typically made in Kolkata.
right.
Made
The
in other
by the
parts,
karigars of
the
Kolkata,
karigars or the artisans.
artisans.
So it's very, very intricate, fine, very ornamental,
Right.
uh, overdone from a Western point of view, and in 22 carat.
Right,
And because jewelry was also Stridhan, even more so in those
right,
days, a big part of the weddings, even more so in those days, the jewelry differed from state to state. The Punjabi jewelry was different from Telugu jewelry was different from Gujarati jewelry and so on and so forth. Whereas this was Western jewelry, 18 karat diamond, one type, just didn't connect at all with what the customers wanted. But the plant was capable of making only that. So we had to make that, or we ended up making that at least. And we didn't also do any kind of deep research that there is this disconnect. We decided that maybe we will try and influence customers' tastes. And we set up stores which were very, very elite. The advertising was very, very Western and elite. The store staff were formal,
more sophisticated in their approach.
more sophisticated, maybe more, not maybe, I think they were speaking English. And so on almost every count, uh, it was not connecting with what the market wanted, and it failed because of that. And then it needed some transformational thing to come by for it to change.
So when the Tatas decided to invest 65 crores in the setting up of the plant, you're saying that it was purely to make jewelry for the Western world or the European market. Then the shift came in terms of understanding the Indian consumer mindset. So this shift was understood after the export business converting into a retail setup, or was it something that was understood much earlier than setting up the retail stores?
See, actually, uh, the newspaper reports of that time
Mhm.
also